Hi, I'm Jared Thomas, and my preferred field of study is Texas history. Not only am I a native Texan, but I also teach Texas history, so learning anything I can that can be incorporated in my classroom is very valuable to me. This week I focused on two dissertations, one titled Building a History, a case study of manufactured history in Texas, written by Greg L. Carter, and the second was Anna Regé Irian, Writing a Woman's Life into Texas History, written by Carolyn Porter Norgard. In Carter's dissertation, he focuses largely on the idea that Texas history was manufactured and mythological in nature due to the necessity of nationalism. Texas needed something to bind them together. He focuses on the periods of Texas colonization, revolution, and then the progressive era of Texas in which the mythological history was manufactured. That's largely what his content focuses on, and there was a lot of issues with it. He doesn't support a lot of his claims of the mythological nature of Texas history with any type of fact. It's all supposition. Some of the things that really irked me was when he talked about the Alamo account. He claims that it seems far fetched to believe that couriers were able to come and go from the Alamo with messages. However, there's way too much factual evidence that goes against his claims, such as we have physical copies of the letters that Travis sent out. Marquis James, in his account of Sam Houston's life, discusses Sam being at the the Independence Convention, in which they receive a letter from William Travis. It's his final letter to the world, in which he's holding out for hope that Colonel Fannon's going to join him. And the convention decides to immediately dismiss so they can rush to the aid of Travis. So obviously his letters got out. So his lack of factual support really bothered me. That leads me into his sources. His sources are kind of weak. His bibliography is not organized in a logical way. It's only divided into books and journals. There are no evidence of primary sources at all. It's all secondary. In his journals, he mixes in websites and videos. It just seems kind of sloppily put together. His conclusions, some of it I liked, and others I disliked. I disliked that he stated that Texas's manufactured history stems from the emphasis on revolutionary origins, tapping into Anglo-American notions of social and political superiority, implying their right to exert dominance over the region and its people. I struggle with this largely because Spain and Mexico had been doing this already. It wasn't anything new when the Americans came to do it. This was kind of what was done at that point in history. Also, he completely discounts the vast number of Tejanos that were also a part of Texas Revolution, so that bothered me. However, I do like that he kind of ended and concluded with this statement. The question, to whom does a narrative belong and for what purpose does it exist? I think that's a fantastic historiographical question that we should all be asking when we do research. His methodology, he really sought to prove a point rather than to ask a question and see what the facts could present. He went in with a presupposed notion that Texas history is largely mythological and manufactured, and he set out to prove it. I didn't like that because it neglects our biblical worldview, that we are committed to objectivity and honesty being an essential part of historical investigation. So, altogether, his dissertation really irked me more than anything else. However, Miss Norgard's dissertation on Anna Regé Irian was fantastic. Um, Her content discusses who Anna was beyond a woman that Sam Houston was interested in. She talks about her life, her marriage to her husband, the events that she saw, and why, even though being in the background of history, she's still an important part of it, which leads into a fantastic conclusion that the women of Texas, whether they were focused on or not, because they're largely not focused on, they're very neglected in Texas's historiography, as Norgard points out. But she concludes with a great statement. She says that Anna Regé Irian and her Texan friends visited each other endlessly, welcomed strangers, yearned for formal schooling, nursed and birthed, raced breakneck horses, danced all night, fished and hunted, talked politics, and built churches, schools, and libraries. Foremost, Texas women held families together, their own, and if called upon, those of friends, neighbors, and strangers, really pointing out how essential women are to history, even if they aren't in the spotlight, that they are a very, very important part of making the world turn. So I really appreciated that she put that in there. Her methodology is fantastic. She allows history to speak for itself. She went in with the question of who was this woman and allowed the facts to speak. She doesn't go in with a preconceived notion of any kind. Her sources are absolutely amazing. They're extensive. She's well over 200 sources divided in an easy to follow manner. Primary sources, she lists all of her books, journals, uh, dissertations, addresses, exhibits, and interviews that she conducted to conduct her research, including descendants of both Miss Irene and Sam Houston. Then her I'm sorry, those are some of her secondary sources and primary sources. I mixed them together. I apologize. Um, just an extensive amount of sources that really lent a lot of credibility to her research. Whereas Mr. Carter, he did have a lot of research, but not a lot of credibility in the way that he sourced his material and the way he put it together. So overall, this was very eye-opening and a great experience on what a good dissertation looks like compared to what, in my opinion, is a sloppy dissertation. Thank you guys for listening.